Now for our first story, the Right to Information Bill has finally been relayed before the consideration for consideration of Parliament after the previous House failed to pass it, even though extensive work had been done on the bill. Well, the laying of the document confirms MP's insistence that it was not with Parliament, contrary to claims by the Executive. The House also adopted the report of the Joint Committee on Communication and Defence and Interior and also approved the supply contract for a dedicated security information system, which was rejected by both sides of the House last week.
1992 Constitution makes provision for a right to information law. It is yet to see the light of day, even though various regimes have expressed a desire to promulgate it. It was one of the fundamental promises made by the late President, Professor John Evans Atta Mills, in his campaign towards the 2008 election, and is also captured in the 2012 NDC manifesto, which saw the election of President John Mahama. Though extensive work had been done on it by the previous Parliament, it died with the expiration of that House. The Mahama administration has for months now maintained the document had been sent to Parliament, a position reiterated by the Information and Media Relations Minister Mahama Ayariga at the recent GJA Awards.
Once again, the Right to Information Bill has found its way to Parliament. It lapsed during the life of the last Parliament and had to go back to Cabinet for approval, was given the approval, and has been laid in Parliament for deliberation and ultimately passed by the House.
That claim has, however, been always challenged by Parliament. The bill was read for the first time after it was laid. It has since been referred to the Joint Committee for Communication, Defence and Interior and Constitutional and Legal Affairs for further work, after which report will be presented to the House for debate to commence on it. Meanwhile, the reports covering the transaction of the supply contract for a dedicated security information system, which was rejected when it came before the House last week, has also been relayed, this time with several amendments and additional information as requested by the House. But some members felt the document, due to the extensive nature of the amendments, would have to be represented.
The impression originally I got from the leadership here was that, which we went backwards to discuss, was that they were going to withdraw this, substitute this, then give members the opportunity to be able to debate on this particular one. But just because we are referring to the other paper, that, well, this is what the other paper says. But you know, Parliament is a matter of its own procedure. And so we should be able to give members the opportunity to look at the report, which is totally different.
Others, however, disagreed. After some back and forth, the majority leader finally intervened.
The process would be that the chairman will now tell us how he has complied with the directive that was given by the person presiding. And it is in that context that he will then draw attention that the previous report that was laid, based on the directives that the person presiding had given, they have been duly complied with.
The ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Anthony Akoto, say, even though acknowledged the improvements, had a word of caution for the Minister of Communications.
We are aware that the government has also purchased another security system. As the Minister of Trade advised, it will be important that these two security systems are integrated so that we will get optimum efficiency. Otherwise, there will be something wrong.
Prior to the debate, the Minister for Defence and MP for Navrongo, Mark Owen Woyongo, read a statement acknowledging the role played by the ex-servicemen in the security of the state.
And still on Parliament, staff of Parliament who threatened a strike on Tuesday over their conditions of service have deferred the action to the end of November following the Speaker's intervention in the matter. Now, the workers are demanding significant improvements in their conditions of service, and they say have remained the same since 2005. The strike, if allowed to take place, will affect the laying of the 2014 budget scheduled for 19th.
Joy News first aired the workers' grievances and their threat to strike about 3 weeks ago. General Secretary of the Financial Businesses and Services Union, Benjamin Mingo, however, explains another thorny issue, which is further complicating the matter, is the attempt by the senior parliamentary staff to stop them from unionizing.
This whole struggle started in 2007, when the workers decided to join a union to take care of their interests as far as their condition of service is concerned. And from 2007 to date, was still locked up. And I can tell you for a fact that the unionization process is in court. We want a representation of the committee which is dealing with the salary structure. And finally, they want the clerk to take measures to withdraw the case from court, the case of unionization from court, and get it settled.
Benjamin Mingo also said, per Standing Order 168 Subclause 3, they are well within their right to ask for their share of the ex gratia the MPs enjoy.
It may not sound well for people to think that workers of parliament may also be agitating for end of service benefits just like MPs, and we can understand that. But you see, parliament work with certain regulations, and you have standing orders. And if I quote, you have standing order 168, which says that it shall be the duty of the committee to consider all matters connected with provision of services to members of parliament and staff. This is where the catch is. So it is not out of place for workers to believe that they are also entitled to some kind of consideration when it comes to end of service benefits.
He, however, acknowledged the efforts made by the Speaker to get the matter resolved, saying they have received assurances the issues will be resolved by the end of November.
We'll move away from Parliament, and the Ghana Forestry Commission has justified a decision to transform the Achimota forest into a world-class amusement park, maintaining the reserve is being encroached upon so quickly there will be none left in the next 5 years or even to the next 10 years. Chief Executive Samuel Afari-Date, in an interview with the news team, also dismissed suggestions the forest has been sold. Matodanya Kwandenis reports.
The Achimota forest is a vast expanse which shares bounds with the Achimota School, Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, University of Ghana, and the George Walker Bush Highway. It currently houses the Accra Zoo after it was relocated to make way for the seat of government at Flagstaff House, and also serves as worship grounds for hundreds of churches. Originally 530 hectares, the land, according to Chief Executive of the Ghana Forestry Commission, Samuel Afari-Date, has been encroached upon so much that there is just 360 hectares left now.
The encroachment is mainly due to human settlement and also some kind of social services that the state must provide to the people. As I mentioned, road infrastructure is very necessary, but why do you use the forest reserve for road construction? This is something that is not done anywhere in the world. If it's a water facility that must be constructed somewhere, people want it to pass through the forest. If it is a police station, and so on and so forth. And if it continues, I'm sorry to say, within the next 5-10 years, Achimota forest will be gone.
He explains the reserve is not being sold off to some members of government or to a developer, as has been speculated in the media. Rather, he says the Commission will seek to support to develop it into a world-class eco-tourism enclave similar to the Nairobi National Park.
Introduce some animals from the Mole National Park, the Kakum areas, the Dija areas. We introduce these animals. Achimota Forest, currently we're making about 60,000 visits per annum. And then the revenue is somewhere around between $60,000 to $100,000. With the current project, we'll be making over between $5 to $10 million per annum compared to what Nairobi National Park is making. And you see, when you compare, currently all this money we are making, we are only making them from the religious groups and the mini zoo that we have there. And it's not enough. We need to increase our attractions to over about 30.
According to the Forestry Commission boss, contrary to the worshippers' fears, they will no longer find sanctuary in the reserve. The proposed enclave will accommodate them.
Religious activities actually is not a nuisance to when it comes to forest reservation. One of the prime objectives of forest is to provide people to practice their religious activity or their spirituality in a very serene environment. However, because the forest reserve, there are some conditions. And one, you have to reduce the level of noise pollution and so on and so forth. So religious activity in a forest is not something new. It's even encouraged, but you have to do it according to the environmental standards. So in this new project, obviously, we're going to have what we call a spiritual enclave, where we'll group all the religious activities for them to practice their spirituality without disturbed.
Though 90% of the trees in the reserve at the moment are neem trees, the Forestry Commission boss says there are plans to introduce other species, including mahogany and Antarctica plants, which are more environmentally friendly.
Government, following bitter disagreement with the traditional authorities over the proposed location of the Elmina fish processing plant, has with immediate effect suspended all ongoing constructions at the site. The traditional authorities, after a meeting with the government delegation, have subsequently proposed another location for the project.
The government's delegation, led by the Deputy Fisheries Minister, met chiefs of the Edina Traditional Council. The chief processing plant was promised the people of Elmina by the late President John Evans Atta Mills, but never saw the light of day until President John Mahama laid the foundation stone for work to begin on the $11 million project some months ago. The chiefs, outraged that the project took off without their consent, had marched to the site to stop the contractors, leading to a standoff. The meeting today was to find an amicable solution to the problem. Speaking to Joy News shortly after the meeting, the Deputy Fisheries Minister, Akoyanan Kwansa, said government may have to relocate the project if the Traditional Council insists the site is not suitable.
It's a complete project that we want to do. We want to create a fishing hub, not only the harbour. We have the harbour, we have the processing plant, all sited at the same area. And if we need to separate them that far, then the purpose of integration it will be defeated. But hey, all is not lost. We're still talking, and I believe when we go and see the new place that they're trying to recommend and it's not viable, maybe they will come back and say that, look, looking at, they thought we were looking for a 10-acre land, like what the chief said, but this is just a project that is taking over 120 meters, 170 meters.
He, however, cautioned any undue delays could affect the donor-funded projects and hoped the chiefs will reconsider their positions.
And maybe we have to do an extensive, they are saying they've not seen any EPA report. We have to do an extensive EPA report for them to see the impact of the project on the environment, how it's going to affect the environment and whatever. So we've asked them to cease operation for now, till everything is concluded. Then we'll see how best to either continue or relocate them.
The spokesperson for the chiefs, Nana Eduakwa, however, remains optimistic the new site at Ampain would be most appropriate.
We are proposing Ampain, which is also part of our traditional area, but it's an outskirt. It's a landing, it's a fishing area, but it is not in a factory built in a residential area has its own problems. That is why we are saying let's take it to the peripheries of the city or the village.
So how many acres?
For now, according to the minister, it's about 200 feet by 200 feet will be enough, but we have an adequate space for them to relocate.
The president of the Central Regional House of Chiefs, Dasibra Kwebwe-Usi, who was present at the meeting, also called on the people of Elmina not to take the law into their own hands, as talks on the issue have begun.
Sometimes issues like this comes out and the town folks will be talking the way they think it should be. But I'm just playing that all the folks will be quiet and then look up to Nananomo, the Omahine and his chiefs, so that after this gathering today there wouldn't be any chaos in the town.
Tension is increasing as a result of a standoff between Ghana and Ivory Coast over the discovery of crude oil on the maritime boundary between the two countries, which could potentially be heightened even further. That's according to Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Alhaji Inusa Fuseni. He explains also to the news team the stakes have been raised a lot higher now that both countries have commenced commercial production in the area, but said government is not relenting in efforts to amicably resolve the dispute.
The area, which stretches over the maritime boundary between the countries, is said to hold significant reserves of crude oil and equally substantial amounts of natural gas. It is adjacent, though not very close to the Jubilee field, where production has been ongoing for some years now. Ivory Coast, in its latest claim to the area, happened sometime after commercial production began on the Ghanaian side, leading to the establishment of a technical committee in the spirit of ECOWAS to resolve the matter.
The main issue is the delimitation of our sea or maritime boundary. And the maritime boundary, I mean the territorial waters, the continental shelf of Ghana. What has happened over the years has been that we as a country, working together with the Côte d'Ivoire, have been able to delimit our land boundaries. But we have not been able to delimit our maritime boundaries. Now, there are various principles that are applied in delimiting the maritime boundary. Ghana believes that the principle that should apply in this matter is the equidistance principle. But the Ivorians think otherwise. So that is why a joint committee is formed in the spirit of ECOWAS to be able to sit down to to peacefully resolve this matter.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister Alhaji Inusa Fuseni is optimistic Ghana will win the case.
The joint teams will have to visit the land boundary between Ghana and Ivory Coast, which is known as boundary post 55, the BP 55, to establish the geographical coordinates of that boundary.
Minority Leader in Parliament, Achimota Sabonsu, is pushing for an amendment in the process of appointing officials to top positions in some state institutions, including the Electoral Commission. The appointment, he said, must be approved by 2/3 majority in the House, and he made the call when he delivered the 2013 Liberty Lecture in Accra. Nilante Akrofi Smart Abe has more.
The Liberty Lecture, attended by a cross-section of minority members of Parliament and some leading members of the opposition New Patriotic Party, was under the theme, The Deficit in Parliamentary Scrutiny in the Fight Against Corruption. Minority Leader Achimota Sabonsu, who delivered the lecture, highlighted the near-bullish attitude adopted sometimes by successive speakers of the House, as well as the lack of resource for MPs as some of the key factors hampering the legislature's efforts to check corruption in the country. He was particularly unhappy about appointments made to top positions of state institutions such as the Electoral Commission, National Commission on Civic Education, Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, and the Statistical Service, adding that such appointments must go through Parliament.
The functions assigned to the SHRAJ, especially under Article 218D and E, are very serious matters, which requires a politically neutral and impartial body to diligently investigate. Given the importance of their responsibilities, their appointment cannot be left singularly in the hands of the President. If the President has to do it, he must do so with the prior approval of 2/3 of the members of Parliament. Removing any of them should also require 2/3 majority. The same manner of appointment could be prescribed for the NCC and the Electoral Commissioners. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that appointments, security of tenure, resource provision are the usual sorts which appointing authorities wield to compromise appointees.
He also suggested sit-ins by the various committees of Parliament be held in the open.
Committees are an ideal vehicle for public participation in policy making. Instead of excluding the electorate after voting, continuing public involvement in parliamentary process could be directed through the less formal and less forbidding atmosphere of committee hearings. The public could only be in the public gallery, in the People's or the National Assembly, as Parliament is otherwise called. The committees provide for them a window of opportunity. Ghana's Parliament should open its committees to public participation. The exclusiveness of the current regime makes it appear to be a club, and it is one reason that attracts suspicions and attacks on Parliament. As much as possible, committee hearings must be done in public, unless otherwise decided by the chair.
Former Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Mike Okwe, who chaired the function, asked Parliament to investigate comments allegedly made by former Deputy Communications Minister Victoria Hammer.
I think there should be a full parliamentary inquiry into this Victoria Hammer matter. Full parliamentary inquiry. Full parliamentary inquiry, American style. A bipartisan full parliamentary inquiry into all aspects, whether to exonerate or otherwise Parliament as a house of inquisition. And I'm very, very keen on the inquisitorial function. Must go into this matter and lay the matter to rest by a serious, well looked at fact finding to resolve the matter once and for all.
The 2013 Liberty Lecture is the third in the series since its inception some 3 years ago.
Well, so those are the stories we have for you for the morning. Now a recap of our top stories.
Yes, and Right to Information Bill finally arrives in Parliament for its consideration months after government said it's been sent there.
Forestry Commission justifies plans to convert the Achimota forest into an amusement park, and it explains the reserve is rapidly being depleted by encroachers.
And government suspends construction of fish processing plant at Elmina over the disagreement with the area traditional council.
Well, we'll bring you a lot more news, but this time on sports, and it's up next with Rashidat Kadri.
Stay on.
Time now to talk sports. My name is Rashida Baba Kadiri. It's proudly sponsored by Tigo. Smile, you've got Tigo. Lots of World Cup matches, World Cup qualifying matches coming up later today, and within the week we'll be previewing some of the games. But before then, there will be matches in the Ghana Premier League as well in week 12 of the 2013-2014 Premier League season. Let's check out the fixtures. Remember that Accra Hearts of Oak will be playing home away from home because they have been banned indefinitely from using their home grounds, the Accra Sports Stadium, after pitch invasion by a section of their fans in week 10. In their week 10 fixture against Kumasi King Faisal at the Accra Sports Stadium. So let's check out the fixtures that are coming up later this afternoon in week 12 of the Premier League. Hearts of Oak, they will host Mediama SC, and that game will be played at the Robert Mensah Sports Stadium. Edibiase FC are hosting Amida's Professionals in Bekwai. Kumasi Asante Kotoko are hosting King Faisal in the local derby at the Babayara Sports Stadium in Kumasi. Inter Allies, they play host to Ash Gold. Hazakes at home to Liberty Professionals at the Sipon Stadium. Bechim United take on Hearts of Lions. The Diana Stars welcome Dwarfs, and then Wa All Stars, they are at home at the Wa Park to Brekum Chelsea. Right, so there are matches that are upcoming, like I said, in World Cup qualifiers. Let's begin with that one. That'll be coming up later today. It's between Jordan and Mexico.
Uruguay trained in the Jordanian capital Amman on Tuesday ahead of their World Cup qualifying playoff first leg against Jordan this afternoon. After finishing fifth in the South American qualifying group, the two-time world champions are determined not to underestimate their opponents, who are 64 spots below them at 70th in FIFA's world rankings. Despite a fourth-place finish in South Africa in 2010 and a 2011 Copa America title to their credit, Uruguay run the risk of missing out on next year's finals if they take Jordan lightly. The Uruguayans are no strangers to the playoff stages of World Cup qualifying, having participated at this stage in the last 4 FIFA Showpiece qualifying campaigns. The The second leg will be played in Montevideo on November the 20th.
Injuries encounter against Uruguay, but that hasn't stopped them from believing they can shock everyone to reach the World Cup for the first time in their history.
It is about time for the Jordanian. As I said, the whole world is expecting Uruguay to win, but expectations are one thing, and reality is another.
The two meet in the first leg at the Amman International Stadium on Wednesday, with the South Americans expected to sweep aside the Jordanians, who have exceeded all expectations in making it this far. The side, otherwise known as the Brave Gentlemen, defeated Japan and Australia in the group stages, en route to a penalty shootout victory over Uzbekistan to set up the tie. But two-time world champions Uruguay, who finished fourth in South Africa, will be by far Jordan's toughest assignment yet.
They are certainly a strong team, and they have some of the world's best players. They don't need my evaluation. The whole world knows how powerful Uruguay's team are, and their world ranking.
The Uruguayans have experience in progressing at this stage, having done it in 2002 and 2010, despite the heartache of defeat to Australia in 2006. Boasting a formidable strike force in Edinson Cavani, Luis Suarez and Diego Forlan, Jordan will certainly have to live up to their nickname.
Right, Iceland and Croatia are also going to be meeting up in another crucial World Cup qualifier.
Iceland's Lagerback side finished second in Group E ahead of the likes of Slovenia and fellow Scandinavians Norway to reach the next stage. And veteran striker Ida Gudjonsson believes there has been no bigger occasion in their history.
It's an exciting time. Times in Icelandic football. Obviously, playing in Iceland in November will give us a new experience, but it will be definitely the two biggest games in Iceland football history.
Tottenham midfielder Gylfi Sigurdsson said expectations are high going into the clash, but should they qualify, they will be the smallest country in terms of its population to ever compete. And he feels Croatia, who finished third back in 1998, have more to lose.
For us to lose, we wouldn't lose any many great players, and obviously Iceland has never been to a World Cup final, so I think we're the underdogs. And
the pressure is on Croatia going into it. They're on a poor run of results, which prompted Niko Kovac to take over Igor Stimac as their new coach in October. The coach was full of praise for his opponents and is wary of the challenge of playing the first leg away from home as they look to seal qualification for the fourth time in their history.
A positive result is where we score a goal and we don't lose. That means the end, I can't tell you, but the aim is at least to score a goal.
Right, so I mean the race to Brazil is getting keener and keener. We just need a few more spaces and we are done. Remember that Ghana would also be playing against Egypt in that final qualifier in Cairo on November 19. The winner of that game, depending on the scoreline, of course, would make it to Brazil together with 4 other African countries. Now let's take a look at the playoff derby going on between New Zealand and Mexico.
Against Mexico on Wednesday at the Azteca Stadium. The squad had been training in Southern California and traveled to Mexico at the last moment, hoping to beat the altitude adjustment. New Zealand's key challenge, besides the altitude, may also be the absence of the West Ham United defender Winston Reid. He has an ankle injury. The Kiwis were the only team that didn't lose a match in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, drawing all 3 games, although they didn't advance from the group stage. The second leg of this tie is on the 20th of November in Wellington, and coach Ricky Herbert would be delighted to leave Mexico's shores with a draw.
Right, let's turn our attention to the senior national team of Ghana, the Black Stars, who are getting ready to face the Pharaohs of Egypt in that final qualifier in Cairo on November 19, ahead of the Brazil 2014 World Cup. Now, on Monday, the players and some officials started arriving in Istanbul, Turkey, where they have pitched camp for now. They will leave Turkey on 18th of November, of course, and get to Cairo on 18th of November, play the game on the 19th, and then leave on that same day the game will be played. So immediately after the game is done, they'll march straight to the airport. Now let's catch up with the latest campaign updates from the camp of the Black Stars. There's more news at 6:45 on the Super Morning Show. That's on the Joy Sports Center. And there's also more news on myjoyonline.com. You should check out the sports page. There'll be more news also on Sports Today on the Joy Sports channel, on your multi-TV, on radio, on TV, online. We have everything that you need to know in the world of sports. My name is Rashida Baba Kadiri. Sports on the AM show is proudly brought to you by Tigo. Smile, you've got Tigo.